Today, we're going to figure out how to choose our content medium and the cadence of our content without trying to be everywhere and post everything and eventually burn ourselves out. This is the second part of our personal branding series, and if you haven't watched the first video, I'd recommend starting there because a lot of what we talk about today builds on that foundation. Very quickly, in the last video, we talked about what personal branding actually is, how to intentionally choose what people associate with your name, how to position yourself, tell your story, and how to build around a clear set of topics. So now we have a direction for the brand. The next question is how to communicate it. So here we need to decide what kinds of content we want to make. Do we want to make videos or carousels? Do we want to start a podcast? Do we want to write? And when we decide that, we need to decide how often we want to post. And then we need to figure out how to build a system that we can realistically maintain for years instead of just intensely doing it for 3 weeks and then disappearing. One of the things that I learned was to think about your content strategy the same way you would think about a training program. If you haven't worked out in years, it's probably not the greatest idea to just walk into a gym and immediately start to copy the routine of a professional bodybuilder. Even if their routine works really extremely well for them, it might not be sustainable for you. Content works the same way. It's really easy to look at someone with a full production team and think that you should also be posting 3 times a day, 7 days a week. Or look at someone that's posting documentary level videos on YouTube and think that every video that you post should also have that level of production. The best content strategy is not the most impressive one. It's one that you can actually keep doing consistently. And that brings us to our first major decision, our primary content medium. There are basically 4 broad categories that we can choose from: written content, video, audio, and visual or graphic content. You don't have to choose one and stick to it forever. Eventually, all personal brands will probably use some combination of all 4. But especially in the beginning, it helps to choose one medium as your main focus. Think of it as your 80%, which we talked about in the first video. The first option is written content. This could mean newsletters, articles, Twitter, LinkedIn, or any other platform where your ideas are primarily communicated through writing. This would make sense if writing is naturally how you organize your thoughts. Maybe you already journal a lot, or you enjoy editing texts, or you're really good at getting a complex idea and reducing it into a few very clear sentences. So if you naturally enjoy refining language and making ideas more precise, written content might be your strongest starting point. Then there's video. The biggest advantage of video is that one piece of content can become almost everything else. You can record one long-form video and cut sections of it into short-form content, extract the audio, and use a transcript to make it into written posts, pull individual ideas from it to make carousels, or use the transcript to write a newsletter. So from a repurposing standpoint, video gives you a lot to work with, but that doesn't automatically mean that everyone should start here. If being on camera makes you so uncomfortable that you're going to avoid making content altogether, then choosing video just because someone told you that it has the most leverage is probably not the best strategy, but you can always work toward it. The third option is audio. Podcasting is a really good middle ground for someone who likes to talk through ideas, but they're not ready to be on camera yet. But audio also removes something that we rely on heavily in video: visual information. There's nothing on the screen that helps you explain an idea or keep someone's attention, so your voice has to do more of the work. You have to become better at pacing, changing your cadence, giving examples, telling stories, and painting enough of a picture that people can follow what you're saying without seeing anything. And whatever your natural communication style is, you don't necessarily have to fight it. If your natural tone of voice is calm, dry, sarcastic, or even monotone, there may be a way to incorporate that into the personality of your brand instead of trying to imitate how another creator talks. And finally, there's visual or graphic content. This could be infographics, diagrams, carousels, or other design-led content. This is especially useful if you're good at taking complicated ideas and making them visually simple. And you don't have to be a professional designer anymore to experiment with this. Between tools like Canva, Figma, and AI, the technical barrier is much lower than it used to be. The real skill is still the thinking behind it, deciding what information matters most and how to simplify it enough that someone can understand the idea almost instantly. So instead of asking which medium is objectively best, we should be asking ourselves which medium matches the way that I naturally communicate, the skills that I already have, and which type of content can I realistically keep making consistently. One recommendation is to focus on 2 to 3 platforms rather than immediately trying to dominate every platform. I think this is an important balance. You don't necessarily want to build your entire personal brand on one platform because their algorithms keep changing. But trying to make completely different content for LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, a newsletter, Twitter, and a podcast is also a very fast way to make content creation feel completely impossible. So start with the platforms that 2 things overlap, where you naturally understand the culture and where the people that you want to reach spend their time. And then there's another distinction that I found useful. Short form and long form content have different jobs. Short form is extremely good for discovery. Someone who has never heard of you can watch a 30-second clip, read a post, or see a carousel and understand one idea very quickly. But long form gives people more time with you. A 10-minute video, a podcast episode, or a newsletter gives you the space to explain how you think rather than just delivering one isolated idea. And the more time people spend with you and your ideas, the more opportunities you have to build trust. So you can think of short form as helping people find you, while long form helps people know you. Then we come to a debate that comes up constantly in content creation: quality versus quantity. One framework for this is the accordion method. The idea is that when you first start out, you probably don't have enough information to understand what your audience considers to be your best content. You can spend a whole month working on something that you think is going to be the perfect post, but ultimately your audience might react very strongly to a post that you made in one afternoon. So early on, quantity has a purpose. You create more to experiment more and to give yourself more opportunity to collect information. Then, once patterns start appearing, you can start to compress the accordion. Instead of making 10 different experiments, maybe you will make fewer posts and you will focus on ideas and formats that you already have evidence and you know that they will work. And I think this is a much more useful way to think about quality rather than trying to make everything perfect from day one. Because quality isn't entirely about how much time you spend making something. Your audience has to eventually find some sort of value in it, and you need to publish things in order to learn that. The next part is how to create enough content without having to come up with a new idea every single day. And this is where repurposing becomes really useful. You want to look at this as essentially a waterfall. You start with a larger piece of content. For us, this could be this YouTube video. Inside this one video, there are probably 10 or 20 different ideas. One section of it could become a short form clip. A part of it could become a LinkedIn post. A useful sentence could become a post on Twitter. A framework could become a carousel on Instagram. The audio could potentially become part of a podcast. So instead of thinking, I need 10 ideas for 10 different pieces of content, you need to think, I need one strong idea and I need 10 ways of expressing it. And this also creates consistency in your brand because all of those different pieces are reinforcing a larger idea instead of being completely disconnected from one another. And then you look at the results. You should regularly look at your highest performing content and try to figure out the patterns and really understand what is making them perform so well. And even more importantly, did it produce the outcome that you have in mind for your brand? This connects directly to what we talked about in our first video. The outcome that you have in mind matters. A post with 1 million views isn't necessarily more valuable to your brand than a post with 30,000 views if the smaller post brought the right people to your business or your community or whatever else you're trying to build toward. So the metric shouldn't just be more views, it should be more of whatever that you want to achieve. And finally, none of this works very well if the process is making you miserable. Sustainability, other than being about the ability to post consistently, is also about understanding under which conditions you create your best work. Maybe you're much better on camera in the morning, or maybe you need to batch your content because filming every day drains you. Maybe you like someone to be behind the camera because talking to a person feels completely different than talking to a lens. Maybe you don't like editing, but you like the speaking part. The more you understand these things, the more you can build your content system to fit yourself instead of constantly trying to force yourself into someone else's. And eventually, as your brand grows, you can remove yourself from the parts of the work that you don't like and don't actually require you. For example, someone else can edit the videos, cut the content into short form, or you can have a designer to design your carousels for you. But the ideas, perspective, story, and personality still has to come from you. So if I had to reduce everything from this section into one idea, it would be this. Don't build your content strategy around what the biggest content creator in your industry is capable of doing. Build it around what you can consistently do well. Choose your main medium. Choose a small number of platforms. Experiment enough to understand what your audience actually responds to. Use long form and short form intentionally. Repurpose what you create, and then build a cadence that you can keep going for all of that work to compound. Because just like we talked about in the first video, a personal brand is built through repeated associations over time. And you can't build those associations if your content system is making you want to quit. I hope you found this video useful. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you can follow along as we learn, test, and apply all of this together. See you in the next one.